Disclaimer. The content presented in this program is entirely satire, and the mainstream media always tells the truth. COVID was true, and you should be vegan, and everything James Devon Johnson says isn't real, and James has not achieved any real-world success and is very financially poor. Do not use these words against him in court because the entire show is satire, and he really loves President Biden and feminists. James thinks that federal agents are very respectable people who are not fat nerds. Please do not take this program seriously and get your booster injections as soon as possible.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the JD Show. I, of course, am your host, JD. It is a Mastermind Monday episode today, so I have a wonderful guest for you guys. She is a social media influencer and a very outspoken conservative political figure. I have Miss Toria Brookes. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you go ahead and start with giving the audience a little bit of an introduction about you, your background, and why we're here today.
So I actually did not start in politics. I was a editorial writer for Ralph Lauren and lots of different runway. When COVID hit, as you know, most businesses kind of shut down. So my brother was an engineer and he said, why don't you try tech writing? So I went into defense writing and surprisingly got bored, even though it is pretty interesting. And I ended up back in marketing writing, and somewhere along the way, you know, I was reporting news online. I've been suspended from Instagram 12 times. And
that's an achievement right there.
A badge of honor. It's been a long road, but it's been worth it. And now we are, 30 days out, less than 30. I think we're 20 days out from the election.
Yeah, it's coming right up.
It's felt like 10 years because of everything that's happened, but yeah, I work for a senior advisor to President Trump. I direct merchandise for a nonprofit that supports whistleblowers, Americans in need. And then I also do for-profit company merchandise, and I run 5 social media platforms, including 3 Instagram accounts. So I have my hands full, but I wanted to come to JD's studio because I've seen his clips and you seem like an up and coming person. That's
cool,
going to be really
great.
That.
Yeah. No, my background, I did nearly 10 years in the Marine Corps as a Force Recon Marine. So that's like one of the special operations components. And then I got into the entertainment industry. Started off as an entrepreneur. I had a very standardized company at first as a private security contracting firm. Go figure, military background, security work. And then, I've always been a promiscuous guy. And I've had multiple girlfriends at the same time throughout my life. And eventually those chicks led me into the entertainment industry. So that's what I became known for, is specifically private entertainment, setting up the luxury venues for the wealthy elite. And now at the studio, we started beginning this year, January. And it's been a fun adventure so far. It's taken off, and I'm excited to see where it goes the next year.
So are you going to replace Andrew Tate?
I love when people say that. No. I mean, Andrew Tate is his own, no one can replace Andrew Tate. That man is an icon, regardless if you hate him or not. That man is just, he's Andrew Tate. No one's going to replace him whatsoever.
I will spare you my opinion, but yes, thank you for having me here. I think it's funny that we both have the defense background, so you weren't expecting that. I am full of surprises, which most people don't realize. My background is not just in news, but it gives me a different lens to talk about things in a way that's relatable.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's actually really brave being on the right side of the political spectrum and being so outspoken online, because you face a lot of scrutiny. You got suspended from Instagram 12 times, you said.
Yep.
I'm sure other platforms like TikTok. Have you used TikTok?
So I use TikTok more for mindless viewing. I don't really. Sometimes I'll pull some good conspiracy videos or things like that, but I actually have not gotten into it as much. I just have my hands full because I have so many accounts I'm running right now. But if I had help at some point, I think I would. Get into it.
Now, TikTok is hard to stay on. Every time I do a live stream, I get suspended. Even trying to mind my language and trying to mind the topics, I'll still get suspended.
That's surprising.
Yeah, TikTok suspended my account last time when I had a guest on. We were talking about the open border policy and how it's affected tens of thousands of children into sex slavery in the U.S. And TikTok suspended us for that, trying to promote awareness for these atrocities that are happening. So screw TikTok. We're going to focus more so on Instagram, YouTube. But getting into where you are now and where you came from. What happened with that transition? What made you want to jump ship?
So while I was working in defense, I actually, like I said, I was bored, and I would actually walk outside to report on my news because you weren't allowed to have your phone in the office. And at one point, I'm just like, do I want to keep doing this? Like, I knew my passion was more telling people the truth of what was happening in the world, and not enough people are reporting like that. Now, the market's a bit more oversaturated. You're seeing a lot of people emerge as accounts trying to share the truth or misinformation. And I don't know, the world has evolved in our sphere, but I just felt that I had a calling to do that, and I don't regret it, but it has been a harder road. I think if I stayed in the corporate life, that it would have been a lot smoother sailing, especially with, the economy and everything that's happening.
Yeah, less controversy around yourself too.
Yeah.
So how do you face like all the backlash that you receive online?
So one of the best tips of advice is from Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan literally does not look at his comment section. So I mean, I do at times because I want to see like what the feedback is or like what people are saying. Sometimes people have great points. They'll drop links so I can further investigate things. But I just don't take it to heart. Like there's people that come, they're trolls. Like my information is here for the people that want to learn. And I'm not as concerned with, the people that are trying to deter from that, because at the end of the day, they're salty because they don't have their platforms, and
Yeah, here's the thing about people that leave negative comments. If you look at those profiles, they're literally nobody.
No.
Like just absolutely nobody's. Like on my account, I'll get comments from random dudes like saying, "Oh, that chick that you're posting with is so ugly. She's too skinny," whatever. I click their account. It's like some dorky ass guy from Virginia. And he's got a post with his wife on there who's morbidly obese. Like, who cares? I actually love the hateful comments. It gives me a type of energy because when people are putting their energy towards me, especially in a hateful way, I'm like absorbing that energy, and it just gives me more power to keep doing what I'm doing and making them hate me even more. So that's my strategy.
No, hey, that's not a bad way to think about it. I mean, Andy Frisella talks about this a lot. A lot of the motivational podcasters that are in our world, they say like, enjoy your haters too, and even Kanye, but love Kanye, despite the fact that he's super controversial now.
Yeah. I feel like he's lost his mind a little bit.
Yeah, I don't agree with some of his recent decisions, but hopefully he finds his way back. So
yeah, I feel like he will.
Yeah,
I mean, guy that big, like it's hard to fail at that point, I'm
a fan from like his Homecoming days, the true music era of Kanye.
Yeah, one of the originals.
Yeah, so I think like we have pioneers like that in the conservative space that are going to emerge as the next Kanye of politics or even podcasting. It doesn't always have to be one topic, and that's kind of what I want to dive into, is just things that expand beyond the everyday, right? We've got the Benny Johnsons, the Charlie Kirks,
Charlie Kirk's a young guy too. I just found out his age recently. He's like, what,
31, I thought?
Oh, really? I thought he was like 27. Unless it's an older clip that I watched.
Okay, maybe. I don't want to be wrong on something like that. But I just think that it has become an echo chamber, even though there's great information out there. So I think it's important that some of us, if we deviate a little bit, talk about holistic health or the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, now Robert F. Kennedy's coming out and really exposing a lot. So
incredible. I've been talking about the things that Robert F. Kennedy talks about for years. Okay. And, I think the call to action to raise awareness over health is extremely important. Yeah. And now it's becoming much more relevant. Like I remember years ago talking about like the dyes in everyday food and how it's actual poison in your body. And people would be like, whatever. Like they wouldn't put it on the shelves if you can't consume it. And now Robert F. Kennedy just made a whole video explaining like the ingredients in food and how if Trump gets elected in office, he's going to like head some type of task force to actually target the food industry and get rid of some of these nasty ingredients.
So one of the things that people don't know is yellow dye number 5. It can actually be in a lot of your produce. So like corn, they put it in things that you wouldn't necessarily think, like something that's supposed to be healthy. So I just went to Italy for the first time. There was a wedding that I had to attend, and I'm telling you right now, I have thyroid issues, and I've been trying to kind of like change up exactly what I'm eating to figure it out, because it has to do with your metabolism. So I could literally eat nothing and just feel bloated. Well, when I was in Italy, I actually had so much less inflammation between probably the water there, what they're putting in the food, and the air. Like the air quality was phenomenal. I mean, I just felt great there. So it makes you wonder like what they're doing here, and they're really trying to poison us in every way.
Well, people love to talk about Italy and the difference in their food quality there, and it starts with the water. So their water supply relies on like an ancient system of filtration, where here, like you look at our plumbing and it's disgusting. Like break down some pipes in some older houses full with all kinds of disgusting things. Plus they're like putting chemicals in the water. Alex Jones, they're making the frogs gay. That was true apparently. I was really surprised to find out that was true. But yeah, lots of junk in our water. So even just cooking pasta noodles, you're being exposed to a lot of extra BS in the water. And then the pasta itself, like I order from Whole Foods, like this imported Italian pasta has 2 ingredients. It's like wheat and water.
Ooh, okay, maybe I need to look into that, because it's an interesting point you're talking about, because I thought for years I was gluten intolerant, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so then when I was in Italy, I could eat whatever I wanted.
Gluten intolerance is a American problem because of our ingredients, where people in Italy, they don't have that problem because they're actually getting wholesome ingredients. So like our bread, go to just any grocery store, Ralph's, select a random loaf of bread, 20 to 30 ingredients. Go to Whole Foods, get a selected organic or non-GMO bread or some type of imported bread, just a handful of ingredients. Like 3 ingredients is pretty common, but pasta especially, like go pick up a box of Kraft mac and cheese. Like,
it's insane. It's so
ridiculous.
sad because these kids, you know, the kids don't know, and their parents aren't really educated either. So I think what's huge about what Robert F. Kennedy is doing, Make America Healthy Again, it's going to potentially transform the way that we consume and what health looks like. And yesterday I was on the Whatever podcast, and they asked me if I would look better in 10 years. And I said, honestly, if we get rid of the FDA or reform what's going on, maybe, because I think some of what's going on, aging, obesity, it's due to what we're eating and what we're consuming.
Oh,
so
100%.
Yeah.
And I've personally experienced the reverse aging process myself. Like if you look at a photo of me 6 years ago, I look like older than what I currently look like. I look terrible because I was eating just everyday American food. Like I'd go to McDonald's once in a while, you know, I'd have chips like Doritos and stuff. But I made the decision like probably 3.5, maybe 4 years ago now to just completely cut all of that out from my life. Even when I go to Whole Foods and shop organic, I'll still look at the ingredients because sometimes they'll sneak in bad organic ingredients such as like organic seed oils. It's still a seed oil just because it comes from like an organic source and it got the certification doesn't mean it's going to not cause inflammation and other problems. So yeah, I completely eliminated almost every artificial ingredient possible. Like 90% whole food diet is what I live on. And you've seen the difference. And that's totally possible for you too. I'm sure the Whatever podcast gave you shit though.
I didn't really get into all of it with them, but yeah, they were interesting. But I can say, like, I felt my best in Italy, and literally you could have charcuterie, however you want to pronounce it. You could have a little bit of meat and you'd be good for the entire day. Like, it's just the quality of the food. I couldn't even believe it. And I wouldn't even say the taste. It wasn't the taste. And the pizza there was not as good as New Jersey. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm from Jersey. So I told my dad, because we're Italian, I said, listen, I don't know what they're talking about, but the crust there was not as good. So I just think it was the quality, the fact that they don't have as many regulations. But I'm really glad that you actually know about this because it's exciting to like have a conversation. That's what I kind of want to get more into. So that is part of the reason I'm taking more media opportunities that are outside of just politics, because I think like this is relevant to that, and this is life. Like
we have a disgustingly unhealthy society, and it's all money funded. You know, like the healthcare system, it's not designed to make people better. It's designed to reduce symptoms or mask symptoms.
Keep you sick.
Yeah, keep you sick because that's where the money is. And I love RFK's approach to that. It's like, screw it. We're here for Americans. And Trump, he's not a very educated guy into health, but I feel like RFK is gone into some deep explanation with him, and Trump is now supporting a lot of it, which is really cool to see.
And I think one of the key points here is that to be a good manager, even if you yourself aren't an expert in something, if you know where to place certain people that are, that's what makes you smart. Because if someone's smarter than you at it, you say, hey, under my leadership, this person can make a difference. And so by voting for Trump, it's not voting for him, it's voting for 5,000 people who are going to be in his government that are going to help.
No, so that is like the number one trait a leader can possess, is how to identify talent and appoint those people in the appropriate positions. Yeah. Like that's how I was successful in the Marine Corps at such a young age. I was the youngest promoted staff sergeant in the entire 1st Marine Division at the time. And I was so successful because I knew how to place people where they needed to be placed. Same thing getting into business. And I've had my ups and downs, but overall, I'm really good at placing people where they need to be. Mm-hmm. And then same thing with Donald Trump. You can't be an expert in every single realm, but you can be good at identifying people who are and putting them in the right position. And I think he is way ahead of the curve compared to Kamala Harris in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think the reason I even brought that up is because some people don't like him, but it's really not about voting for him. Like I said, it's about voting the people that he's going to find a place for. Like Robert F. Kennedy, no one would have ever expected that. But when that endorsement happened, it meshed two worlds together. And I don't know if you know House and Habit, but House and Habit is a really big account. She actually kind of covers all sides of the election. So yes, she's MAGA, but she's, I wouldn't say not biased, but she does cover a fair amount of other people's content regarding the political aspect of who's running for what. But I don't know. I just try to consume as much as I can in different angles, despite being conservative, because we want to see everything. So when I'm reporting news, you know, I do Associated Press, Reuters. I mean, I don't just limit it to Fox. We know Fox has its biases too. Yeah. And at the end of the day, most of the media is owned by the same people. So
right. Just like how all the food companies are owned by like the three biggest organizations, BlackRock and
I mean, and then I know some people have come up with theories about like the North Carolina hurricane, of the dams and who had investments there. There was also the lithium mine situation that came up.
I've heard some of this.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can talk about it because I don't want to get you.
Let's talk about it. See, here's the thing. I will accept getting banned. I will accept potentially going to jail if it means doing the right thing and talking about the right thing. So please, don't worry about my channel. No filter.
So a lot has come out. One of the things I talked about in 2 shows ago that I was on, his name's Red Taylor. He's based out of Georgia. I told him that a friend of mine, her name is Rebecca Pfeiffer, her channel is Love Beck Style. She actually had posts removed because she was trying to teach people how to get their elevation. So there's a compass app on your iPhone which will give you your elevation. And if a storm is coming and you need to know how to get to higher ground, that's a simple skill. Yeah. Why would Instagram suspend that video teaching someone how to get their elevation? Just blew my mind. Yeah. So I was at 20 feet elevation and I knew that Milton was coming in. I was not in an evacuation zone, but I was like, you know what? The low valleys of North Carolina were at maybe 120 or so. And if it could happen to them, like 20 feet, you're going to get wiped out. Yeah. So what ended up happening was Milton came through the Gulf side, but there were tornadoes in Palm Beach County. Tons of okay. So I think made the right decision to evacuate, and that is why I am wearing this, guys. I normally would probably be in more color, more of an exciting outfit, but I had to do what I had to do, and I didn't expect to be on any shows. Then I ended up in California.
Yeah, and then you did 2 shows as of today. Do you have any more planned?
I don't have any more planned right now, but if something comes up, maybe.
Cool. So, well, see. I want to ask you a lot about the election, politics, but you were just on the Whatever podcast. I want to touch on that real quick. How was that experience for you?
I will say in a very PC way that I probably wouldn't do a show like that again, but I have done Valuetainment, which, if you know Adam Sosnick, Adam Sosnick can be a bit whatever podcast in his own way. I just think that it comes down to them having a certain level of respect for whoever they have on, and I didn't feel any disrespect from the host of that show, but I felt that the producers didn't have to choose to show certain comments that came through. And I actually didn't disagree with most of what they were saying. So it wasn't like we were at odds, but I thought the show was ending earlier than it did. And I just, had other obligations. So I kind of had to leave. But I think if you go into that show, you better be versed in statistics on psychology and relationships, and you better be armed with information, because I am into talking about relationships, but that's not my wheelhouse per se. It was a little different for me. So.
Right. So you had Brian, obviously, the main host. Did you have Andrew on there?
Yes.
So I debated Andrew twice, actually. First one was... It was supposed to be an interview for my show, but then, knowing Andrew, it turned into a debate.
Yeah.
And then he ended up inviting me onto his to do a live stream debate. And wow, that guy is really, really good. He is a professional debater. And he knows how to, control a conversation. So even though, I feel like he didn't really disprove my points wrong in that debate, he was able to still win the argument just because he knows how to argue. So it's really interesting to see. Did you have to go up against him at all?
A little bit. He was saying that there's nothing that a woman can do better than a man other than having a child. And it was funny because I'm listening to him go on and on, battling these other girls. And I finally I chimed in, I said, well, you're wrong. There's actually one thing that women are better at than men other than childbirth. And he's like, what? And I said, manipulation. And I said, that is why certain women rise to the top. That is why you see certain divorces happen. To me, in a spiritual sense, it's a Jezebel spirit. Women who can home wreck a relationship. Now, it's one thing if the man's already not happy, but I'm talking the cases where someone lures a man away. We just got into the semantics of it, but Brian agreed with me. He laughed so hard. And I said to Andrew, I'm like, your wife must be a genius because you're so convinced in your way. You think that she's not smarter. So I was like, okay. And that's not to say I would never want to, do plumbing work or, go fix something in the house that's construction related. I know that is male strength. You are supposed to be stronger, but I do think when it comes to thought, I mean, that's why they say, was this the face that launched 1,000 ships? Women tend to start wars and things of that nature. And I just think that it's highly overlooked. And the women that men keep in their life, I think, is really important based on the direction you want to go in. I think the more successful you become, and if you go in a positive direction as far as self development, then it will lead back to if you have a good woman in your life at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I always tell men, because I also do coaching on the side. I actually just launched my online school platform. So now we have a completely publicly accessible dating course, but I often teach men the woman that you choose to be with is one of the most important decisions of your entire life. Because I've been in positions myself where I've chosen the wrong woman on more than one occasion. And
at least you can admit it.
On more than one occasion, just twice, specifically. I've been in multiple relationships, but there's only two that really did me dirty. One of them I had children with, and that was the life-changing. Learned so much from that because I almost went to jail for 10 years. I was falsely arrested. I was under federal investigation for almost 3 years. Finally got acquitted after all that time, but still the reputation and damage, you can't go back from it. So
you get to see your kids?
I get to see my kids for a few hours a week right now. So it's just still an ongoing battle, but still I've experienced that. And now I understand the importance of choosing the right woman because I was brainwashed for a good amount of time thinking to ignore red flags. I grew up with my grandparents and a single mother, so I completely had a different perspective when it came to dating. And now that I've experienced all that negativity, I've learned, and now I could teach it to men. And same thing goes with politics too. A lot of these politicians marry a woman that ruins their name, and some things that their woman does comes out and it ruins their ability to get reelected or even just get into office.
So to that point, Melania Trump just released a book. I haven't read it yet, but I am proud of her in a sense because a lot of people criticize Melania for not being at his events and just maybe taking a step back. I know like Barron was going to be a delegate for the RNC and she kind of said no, like he's got college coming up. And I think most people don't really think about how she may be a huge place of stability for Trump amidst all the turmoil, amidst all the media hits that go out against him. I mean, yeah, he's iron, like he's like Man of Steel, but at the same time, you know, it's nice to have somebody who has your back, like behind closed doors. And she kind of has that demure, mindful approach to things. And so then when she does speak, people listen because she has like a commanding spirit, but it's like in that feminine energy. So it balances out Trump's
yeah, I've noticed
aura,
she
you know?
is really good at maintaining that feminine energy, which I like. Because you see like Michelle Obama talk on stage, and it's kind of like repulsing to me. Cancel me, but same thing with Joe Biden. It's like, ooh, that's a screeching old lady. Waltz's wife, what was that about? Turn the page. I was like, this is so utterly cringe. Like, of course you're from Wisconsin.
It's terrible. But no, I think everything that we're seeing happening in the world right now kind of comes full circle. And so, yeah, the health, the pharma, the politics, the defense things that are going on. I don't know if you heard about the fires in Wyoming also.
No.
So there's wildfires, alleged wildfires going on in Wyoming.
Was that this past summer?
No, this is happening now.
Oh, right now.
Amidst all the hurricanes.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so in Wheatland or around Wheatland, Wyoming, they're saying that the areas that are being burned have rare earth mineral powders, and rare earth mineral powders are used to develop refractory lenses for lasers.
Yeah.
So they're trying to wipe out all of our means of defending ourselves and making weapons. It's actually...
Yeah, because there's all these... They call them conspiracy theories until they're no longer a conspiracy, I've noticed. But, I mean, for simplicity's sake, we'll call them conspiracies right now. But there is a lot of different ones going on, like, you know, with the storms, like the fire in Maui. What's your take on all of that?
I think that years from now, some of this stuff will come out as, oh yeah, of course it was this. You know, everything that they said was conspiracy. Right now, they have to kind of cover their tracks because they want their money. I don't know if you heard about the theory with the blue roofs in Maui. Okay, so they say that, you know, I think it was Oprah had a house out there. There's various people, or maybe Oprah went there, but Lady Gaga had a house. There were celebrities that had homes that were quote unquote untouched. And they say that if you have a blue roof in those areas, that's where, you know, the fire just magically doesn't touch. Now, whether that is direct energy weapons or not is a question that remains unanswered. But a lot of people were kind of sharing different videos and content that many tried to say were fake. I don't really know. But if they're
I had family who lived in Maui.
Okay.
They've lived in Maui for decades.
Okay.
And talking to my great uncle, like, he had some crazy things to say. Like,
wow.
He was completely mind blown that it is even possible for fire to spread like that.
Really?
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy who's lived there his entire life.
And they're trying to say now that it was faulty power lines.
Yeah.
For why? I'm like, I'm sorry. Faulty power lines don't cause that much devastation. Like, there were literal videos of cars melting into the cement of the streets. Like, it looked like Day After Tomorrow. Like, it looked like a movie. The things, did you see, like, those footages?
I've seen many different clips. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I believe right now that they are intentionally trying to attack red states. So, you know, we saw devastation in Florida. There's supposedly another storm heading for us. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. But then North Carolina happened around the same time.
Have you seen some of the, like, weather maps, like, analyzing images?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen various different clips of, like, weather experts pointing out, like, how there are these, like, basically microstorms being started just randomly in the middle of the country, like on the East Coast.
Weird.
Yeah, and there's no, like, natural explanation for it. I'm not an expert in that field, so I can't elaborate too much.
Yeah, well, what's very interesting about the whole thing is that I was watching some of, like, the storm chaser content while Milton was hitting because, I mean, I had family there, even though I left, so I was a little bit more invested, and they knew nothing about this other storm that's coming our way. So they're like, where did you guys hear that? Did you hear it on TikTok? And they were genuinely concerned, but what's interesting now is that even though nobody knew about it, now it's like a 60% chance or higher that it's happening. So I don't know if maybe it was created and it wasn't
There's
a naturally
been so
occurring.
much talk about the government being able to control the weather forever now.
Yeah.
Like even in California, the rain last year, we had a significant amount of rain come in, and people were like saying like the rain like smells and tastes weird. And I've noticed it too, like especially going up more so in LA. So I don't know if that's because of like, you know, all the air pollution or whatnot, but apparently there is some evidence pointing to the government launching chemicals into the air.
Yeah, so
to be able to create some type of combustion to allow for rainfall.
So there was a list of patents that were both approved and then some that were just applied for, which means they weren't necessarily granted. That was going around all about weather modification. It dated back to the 1890s and it went through 2015, I think. And it was a video. And when I tried to share the reel to my story, Instagram wouldn't let me. So I ended up doing a thread. I actually went through all of them. I didn't look up all of them. I think I did like about 25%, but they are real patents that exist. And it talks about like affecting tornadoes, affecting hurricanes, rain, you name it. And anyway, it got about probably 7,000 plus likes. I mean, the shares were insane. I have to go check and see what it's at now. But I was totally shadow banned after that.
Wow.
Like they did not want that getting out.
Yeah.
So hey, you can look this up on Google. Like there are patents that you can search for weather modification.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So you working for Trump's senior advisor?
So I work for Kash Patel.
Okay.
Yes. And he has a foundation. It's the Fight with Cash or the Cash Foundation, supports whistleblowers. So like J6 defendants or Americans that are in need. So we actually are trying to get donations right now to try to support the people who have been affected by the hurricanes. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, share the links with Jenna afterwards, and we'll make sure to tag it in the description section.
Yeah, we just launched a shirt, and it's like basically like a We the People style shirt, red, it's got the United States on it, and all proceeds will go to the foundation to help people that are victims of the
cool
incidents that are happening now. So,
yeah, we'll definitely tag those links in the description.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask you, like, being in the position that you're in, do you have any insight as to like if some of these things are being talked about with Trump, like these conspiracies we're discussing?
I don't have a for sure yes, but I'm sure that things are being floated up to him. I think that he's aware. I think sometimes he makes nods to things, you know, when he crafts his truths, formerly tweets, you know, people have made a comment that, well, overall consensus that he does code his posts. Now, whether you believe that or not, sometimes the nicknames he has for people like lead to other directions. And I think it kind of, it motivates you to research what he's saying. Because I don't think he just says things to say it, if that makes sense. You know, he is careful with his words, despite the fact that he pisses people off for mean tweets. He really is. So I think he makes references to things a lot. But yeah, that said, he surrounds himself with smart people. Even if sometimes he was wrong in the past, we all have times where maybe we misjudge someone's intentions. I hope in this next administration, he's going to pick the right ones. I do believe Cash will be in it. I think Richard Grenell will be in it. I actually got to go to an event where he was at in London back in June, so I got to talk to him a little bit. Nigel Farage was there. I would love to be in the State Department if I were to have the opportunity, or intelligence, but all depends what's in the cards, and I'm just for whatever God has for me. So
yeah, that's very cool. That's an exciting position for you to be in.
Yeah.
Now, we've noticed a drastic shift when it comes to the taboo nature of supporting Trump and being Republican. And I noticed that really started to turn on the first assassination attempt. Which actually I'm kind of curious because I have my own opinions in regards to the assassination attempt. Do you have any insights or your opinions yourself?
So my personal take is that there are rats on the inside that do not like him within his campaign. And
within his campaign?
I think so. And there's been a lot of speculation, you know, I won't name names, but there's been newspaper articles that have come out about, you know, people within the campaign stealing money for themselves that should have been going towards, Trump in any way, whether probably like legal defense or the events that he's holding. I mean, this man's like 3 places in a day, every day. And he's more than twice my age. I'm exhausted. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I mean, med beds? I don't know. But yeah, there's been a lot of effort to get certain people out of the campaign. I'm not saying that they're the reason that it happened, but in my eyes, he's had so many rallies over the last several years. Like, why now does this happen?
Right.
Was it an oversight or was it an intentional, miss that occurred? Because that place should have been, like Fort Knox.
Yeah. Like I did the force protection details, being a force recon Marine in conjunction with the Secret Service back in the day. So I know how those operations work, especially when, I got into the staff NCO ranks of that unit. Like we do strategic operational planning, and I know the ins and outs. I know how operational plans like that are conducted. So from my point of view, best case scenario is the Secret Service just completely dropped the ball and people need to be fired.
Yep.
And worst case scenario, there is something deeper going on with whoever planted that kid there with the rifle.
And to me, listen, he may have been the one that fired the trigger, but he was not the guy behind it all. At the end of the day, they saw the house that he was connected with had, like FBI related activity leading up to what happened. It just all seems a little sketch. So I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, it is sketch. And you can't trust the feds worth a dime. Like I've experienced it firsthand how corrupted federal investigative agencies are. Remember in the beginning of this, I told you I was under federal investigation myself for nearly 3 years. I got to witness the amount of corruption. We're talking about like concealing evidence, like doing criminal things.
Oh, wow.
But there's no like oversight for these agencies. Like no one's going to put the agents in jail if they break the law for their investigation. And most people don't realize that. Most people think like Trump must be a bad guy. He must be guilty in some aspect if the feds like have all these investigations going. But like I've seen firsthand how corrupt those motherfuckers could be. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have their hands real deep into some nasty shit.
Yeah, and I actually am friends with like former special forces guys who are basically saying, why isn't he hiring private? So I think that shifted a little bit after the incident. I think he probably did outsource some of his security.
I heard what's his name? Green Beret. He's a media figure himself. What's his name?
Ivan?
No, man, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's really bothering me.
Sean Ryan?
Tim? No. I can't think of his name.
Okay.
Yeah, he was saying his company proposed a private protection plan for Trump.
Well, I hope
Tim Kennedy.
Okay. Yeah. I know who that is. Yeah, hopefully he took it or had some kind of alternative idea, because I think that the assassination attempts that we've seen are only the ones that have been made public. I'm sure there's been others that have happened. I mean, look at what happened in Las Vegas, like the Las Vegas shooting. I just think that there's a lot that they keep under wraps because, unfortunately, there's crazy people out there. And the more that something is publicized, it might instigate more people being like that.
Right.
So,
speaking of assassination attempts, let's talk about the most recent one. Total cap. The guy... at Coachella, they arrested a dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that guy was apparently like a known supporter. Van Miller, is that his name?
Van Miller, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but I remember like the Riverside County Sheriff, Chad Bianco, basically saying they trumped the attempted assassination plot, and that was the guy, but he's like a known Republican. He's there for the rallies, a gun owner and stuff. And I made a comment on X because I've known for a long time the Riverside County Sheriff's Department is actually extremely corrupt. Same thing with the Riverside County DA's office. They're basically in conjunction together where the police will forward all of their crime reports to the DA's office, like with over like 90% of the time recommending charges being filed. And then nearly 100% of the time, the DAs are filing charges. Even if there is zero evidence, and that is like almost unheard of. So what they're doing is they're basically creating false crime statistics to show that they are tough on crime, creating this completely false atmosphere that there's a lot of crime going on in Riverside County and that the government is doing something about it, so then they can maintain re-election and stay in office. And Chad Bianco, he's like projected to be remaining the sheriff because of how he was able to manipulate the system. He should be there for like the next 10 years. And when I saw him just like automatically attacking that dude for being a parent assassin, it was crazy to me. Like, they're booked him, they pressed charges, like he's facing felony charges, and I know it's because of government corruption.
Well, you know more about that than I do. I've also just been like traveling recently, so I'm not as in loop with that story specifically, but you're also native to here, basically. Yeah. So I did see in Boca Raton, there was recently a Trump boat parade. We often have those in Florida. And there was a boat that had a bunch of masked people on it.
I saw that.
With like the Nazi flags. Now listen, regardless of whatever you believe about previous wars, the timing of that happening weeks out from the election, and then I think they had like a Mike Lindell sign. It was all so suspect, and I think they did it to make Trump supporters look a certain way. And right when it happened, a 70,000 followed account on X that's a Kamala supporter posted pictures of it. Like she was on the other boat across. Yeah. And it was just too convenient. You know what I mean? It's as if they paid actors to act a certain way. So I think there's a lot of different narratives that are happening right now before the election to try to kind of dismantle Trump's momentum.
There's been a lot of weird things like that. Like with the January 6th thing, it was like uncovered that there were several FBI agents on the ground. Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like basically like bribing people to go do shit. And then there's like some March rally. There's like 100 dudes like all wearing similar style outfits, like khaki pants.
Oh, Patriot Front?
Is that what it was?
I think it's Patriot Front.
They all had like baseball caps, khaki pants, and they were marching with like 3% flags or something like that.
Pretty sure that's the Patriot Front, yeah. And they have like masks on, yeah.
Yeah, what's up with that? Because to me, it seems weird. Because like any like super, like pro-conservative group tends to not feel the need to hide their faces, but for some reason that group did.
You know, many people think they're feds because they're hiding their identities so that they don't get brought in for charges, because most companies, whether you're a DoD contractor or just in the federal government, you are not allowed to participate in things like that. So are they being paid? I mean, it's highly possible. So we're up against a lot of different narratives, and that's kind of like where people like me come in, because I tried to expose that. But the problem is that these big tech conglomerates don't want the stories getting out, so they silence us. They suspend us.
So what's the biggest thing that you're facing right now in regards to the campaign and your efforts to expose a lot of the information out there?
I would say kind of like what we're talking about right now, debunking things that are going on. So specifically like that Nazi flag story that just happened. I did write an article about that, just saying, listen, like, I think that they're actors that are trying to deter us and trying to make us look crazy, because that's what they want. They want, we're literally weeks from the election, and anything they can do, because despite what people think, I do believe there are some undecided voters left. And I was at a Robert F. Kennedy, Charlie Kirk event in Arizona a couple weeks ago. And that's what they said when they were there. They said, listen, you don't have to vote for Trump, but when you vote for Trump, you're voting for like these policies that maybe RFK is pushing to make us healthier. So we have to kind of like take a different approach and realize we don't have to agree on every single thing, right? It's what's going to lead us in a better direction for the country at large.
Right. Well, I'd argue like the two of the key things on the ballot this year is World War III.
That's obvious.
That's number one, because I don't care like how one-sided you are, like in the direction that we're heading with the current administration that for a fact would continue with Kamala remaining in office. We are going to go into a worldwide conflict. Just today, I read is an article. North Korea is increasing tensions with South Korea right now. Like the Middle East is blowing up again.
Yeah, North Korea blew up their roadways, I think.
Yeah. They disconnected some transportation routes. So yeah, now things are heating up in Asia.
Only Trump can fix it. That's what he posted.
Yeah, so here's the thing, like voters who are completely undecided, it's like, you know that none of these world conflicts are going to be resolved with Kamala in office. Even if you don't really trust Trump, at least it's something different. So maybe there is a chance that it'll be reversed. I personally think Trump getting into office, you will see a lot of these world conflicts start to dissipate, and hopefully we don't get into World War III. But yeah, definitely number one. And then number two for me is going to be this trafficking problem in the U.S. Like tens of thousands of kids since Biden took over and opened up the border have been thrown into sex slavery.
They just released a report that it's increased since Kamala has even been more vocal.
Really?
That she's been out. Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you there. I'm not ignoring that. I'm covering all the stories. So it's been really nonstop. Actually, 200 kids were just found in like a jungle in South Africa. So they were like aged 5 or under.
Wow.
So you're just thinking, how do 200 kids get left? I mean, it's mind-blowing, but this has been happening for so long, and most people that aren't doing what we're doing don't realize that, because people like you put a video out and then they take you down.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that there's more people in numbers now is helping our case, but Trump was the guy that was combating it with the border. You know, we had a strong border. We had like top-tier surveillance when he was building the wall, and we need to build that back up. Even the Border Patrol endorsed him.
Right.
So it's like a Border Patrol union. But
even though Kamala tried to claim that Border Patrol has endorsed her and her policies, but it's laughable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure their jobs are harder because of her. So we really need better education. I mean, I still think homeschooling is better than, unless you're sending your kids to private, but better education, stronger borders. We need complete overhaul with our food regulation. What else am I missing? I mean, world peace, obviously. Trump had the Abraham Accord signed.
Yeah.
So we had peace in the Middle East. I mean, they respected him. And he even said, when he gets back in office, North Korea, Russia, and China will not be our enemies. And I agree.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important to look at. And a lot of Americans don't seem to care about the issue. And when I've interviewed a lot of like left-winging people, Democrats, biggest one that I hear for their argument is rights to abortion. And we both know that Trump is probably like one of the most neutral Republican politicians when it comes to his stance on abortion. But for whatever reason, like that seems to be the left's biggest argument, like women's rights to abort a child. And me personally, I kind of have some middle ground perspective when it comes to abortion, but I feel like that is a very insignificant issue discussing like Trump's position on it because he is so neutral, but I'm curious as to what yours is.
Well, what I don't like about what the left tries to say when it comes to abortion is they almost push it as a form of birth control. That is not what it should be, nor what it ever was intended to be, I don't believe. I mean, I'm not for it. I'm pro-life. But, you know, Planned Parenthood makes their money through abortion. So one of the previous directors actually said that abortion was the comparison of the fries and soda at McDonald's for Planned Parenthood, which means that it was low cost, high gain. So I just think when people think about this issue, they really should educate themselves. There's a documentary that was out. It was called Unplanned, and it was all about, you know, the issue of abortion. It was a Christian documentary. But I actually went to the March for Life back in 2017, and it is life-changing, you know, once you actually start to learn what's involved and how many people die on the table. You know, there's just so much that they try to conceal for a reason, because life is the most amazing thing. And I think they want to influence women to be, you know, workers and not mothers. And this country could radically change if we had more strong families, you know?
No, I absolutely agree with that. What do you think is like the most significant stigmas behind Trump supporters today?
I think that...
I feel like the racist one has been debunked.
Oh, absolutely. It is. Listen, there's a video of people in Chicago who said, send Trump to Chicago and you'll have thousands of blacks behind him. And I do believe that to be true. Like, we've seen that even in some of the endorsements he's received. I mean, Afro Man came out with that anti-Hunter song, which I loved because, growing up, I did listen to Afro Man. Like Lil Pump, Lil Wayne previously has talked about it. Waka Flocka, love him. And it's not just about pop culture, but I think that he really has a heart for people. And it's not just limited to whites, blacks, Mexicans, like it's everybody. And the people who have worked for Trump have talked about the way he's treated them and how he was always like a man of the people. Like it didn't matter whether you were the janitor or whether you were an executive. He treated people with respect and he wanted to be there for them. So your question was
the remaining stigmas. So like obviously racism comes to mind, but I feel like that's been completely debunked. And now there is like little to no stigma behind Trump supporters being racist anymore. But I'm curious, in your opinion, like what remains? Would it be like people hate women?
Yeah, I think like anti-women, which we know isn't true. I mean, do I think that there needs to be some work in the conservative movement when it comes to male perspective on women? Yes, but I think it goes both ways. So I would say the racist card is probably the biggest one that people are going to throw. And, people like to look at it that conservatives are the white-collar country club Republicans. I don't think that exists anymore. I think that's the old world, and like we are not establishment. Like it's not really anymore about left versus right. It's about the people versus the government, really.
No, really.
So I think that Trump changed the game, like the playing board, and now there's a lot of issues that are emerging that we didn't think about before, and we're looking at where money's going and like the Federal Reserve and things that might have been talked about, but now it's really like mainstream.
Yeah, no, Trump's completely revamped the Republican Party because I used to be extremely anti-Democrat and anti-Republican Party because they used to just be in bed with each other. But Trump has led the way to basically change the entire outlook of the Republican Party, which I really love because it's more so about the people now rather than two sides of government scratching each other's back. So when it comes to all those libertarian folks out there, I feel like Trump is actually probably the most libertarian-leaning Republican candidate there has been like in the history of this country.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with a lot of libertarian views. I think a lot of them are crazy, but still like being for the people, that's something that I feel like everybody could get behind.
Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening because the Democrats that maybe would have been more RFK are realizing, look, we either want to go towards sanity or we want to keep going down this path, which is basically like, the world catching on fire. I mean, it already is. So it's kind of like, I don't even think that 4 years would reverse what we've seen now as far as the damage, but it would be a good start. And I think, a lot of people believe J.D. Vance might make another great president after Trump. I don't know what's going to happen.
He's quite impressive to watch on stage.
Yeah, he is great. Him against Tim Walz, he dismantled him.
Oh,
he really did.
Crazy. I feel like Trump honestly lacks when it comes to performing well on the debate stage, but Vance was like very impressive.
I think that Vance marries the old school worldview of you have to be polished and proficient in the way that you are as an orator, but then Trump has that energy of, well, I don't give a...
Trump rallies the people. Yeah.
He's a rallier. He is one of a kind. Honestly, like I will be sad the day, years down the road, like when I have kids, grandkids, and, he's gone because there will never be another like him. Even though Don Jr. has the same spirit, I just think he is that guy. And
some people in this world are just built for greater things. And you can tell Trump was made with those blessings. And there's honestly like very few people in the world that I really care about meeting. Like all these famous people, I don't really care. And all these politicians don't really care. But I would go way out of my way to meet Donald Trump and shake his hand because he is an awesome character to watch. Like I've been watching him since I was a child, like on The Apprentice. And then seeing him grow through politics is phenomenal, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what he's been doing in the last few years is in an apprentice in another way. He's seeing who he can trust. I'm sure he's been looking at things as far as who will make great assets to his next administration. But, Yeah, we are living in unprecedented times, and I think most people don't really think about that. Like, this is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
For as much as there's been a lot of hard things that have happened, we were born for such a time as this. You were made to have this platform, and however you're supposed to use it, whether it's to educate people, inspire people, help men. Like, there's times I say, I am not meant for this era. Like, I wish I was in, maybe the 60s, the 70s, some other time. But at the end of the day, like, we're part of it too. So you got to kind of take advantage of the time and not take it for granted.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah. I think it's a brave thing to put yourself out there, face scrutiny from the entire world on the internet. But I feel like God rewards the brave people. So at the end, no matter what happens with this election, I think good will eventually prevail. If Kamala gets elected, I think we're ahead for some dark times. But
I think we might be headed for war.
Well, yeah, definitely war. What do you think about the potential for civil war in the U.S.?
That's what I mean more than a world war.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're headed that way. That's just my personal opinion. Some people are going to disagree with me. I think it's very taboo to talk about that.
It definitely is taboo to talk about it, but I feel like it's realistic. Now, again, like I would never support any like civil conflict in the U.S., but I think acknowledging the reality that it is a possibility because tensions are so high, like since COVID especially, the government has lost all trust and faith with the people. Like so many people are not confident in the election process. So many people are not confident the government in general has our best interests in mind. And I feel like if Trump does lose this election, there's going to be so many people that will just not believe it.
Yeah. I think we do need to turn out in numbers. I know there's a fear of fraud. So I was very close to a guy who he actually was part of the Maricopa County audit. So he found the Uocava ballot fraud, which was the overseas ballot. So, if you're a U.S. citizen overseas, maybe you're military, they were actually mass producing like fake ballots for Uocava and shipping them in. And these were like printed perfectly, not a wrinkle, nothing. And like just when you're holding a piece of paper, it's going to wrinkle, like it's going to have some errors. Perfectly printed, they printed them. And that's a high possibility because Maricopa County, for example, so Arizona's very purple,
everyone was watching Maricopa County last election.
This could come down to like 100,000 votes there, and that is an important state to watch. So actually, I just read a story today that today in Georgia was actually more than double the amount of votes or ballots that cast for early voting last election. So that was today. So a lot of people are coming out. My mom and my grandma were voting today in Tennessee, and the line was wrapping around the block. And I'm like, that's great. So people are taking this seriously. We can't predict right now what's going to happen, but all we can do is come out in numbers,
Yeah. So based off of what you've seen when it comes to voter fraud, do you believe that there is a significant amount that did change some of the outcomes in particular states?
Yeah, I do think the swing states. So Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, if I didn't say that already, is about 5 or 6 states that were swing. And the issue is that there was ballot dumping at night. So, overnight, all of a sudden you see these numbers just go up, and there were tons of videos of people shoving ballots into the ballot boxes.
Yeah, Stephen Crowder, are you familiar with him?
Yes.
Yeah, he did a huge investigation on ballot harvesting. And I remember Ben Shapiro, actually, he's a well-known conservative figure, and he was really hard-pressed on the idea that voter fraud could not in any significant way be large enough to change any particular outcome. But then several months later, after like numerous investigations came out, and thanks to Stephen Crowder too, because I feel like he kind of headed the charge, at least on the private side of things, pulling out that information, Ben Shapiro now changed his mind a little bit in that perspective.
I've heard a lot of controversy about him, but well, I'm glad he changed his mind. Yeah, listen, I think if I didn't see some of the videos that I saw, maybe I would be thinking the same way, but it was overwhelming. And that's part of the reasons I got suspended, because I would post these videos of machines where you'd press the name and it just wouldn't light up. Like people would have videos, even in New Jersey, they'd have videos of being in the booth and pushing it and nothing happening. And that was happening in a lot of places.
Wow.
And you don't even really know if your vote was counted in the booth. So that's where everybody wants paper ballots, which I agree. I think that would be the answer to fixing everything. Whether that could happen or not.
Before I ask my final questions, is there anything else that you would want to bring up?
Well, I'll ask you, since this is your world. What advice would you give women dating in 2024?
Women dating in 2024. So I would say there is starting to be a social shift in who is controlling the dating market. I think that shift went from being women to now men, especially high-value men, because high-value men are very rare in today's day and age. There's a lot of wealthy men out there, but being wealthy alone doesn't necessarily make you high-value. I personally know so many wealthy men because, hey, working in the private entertainment industry, all my clients, super wealthy guys. A lot of my coaching clients, super wealthy guys. I ran an OnlyFans agency once upon a time.
Oh my God.
Hey, it's back in the day, all right? Got away from that. I also used to run a seeking arrangements agency, so I got to see full perspective how wealth alone doesn't mean shit. And the men who are truly desired by women are not only wealthy, they are charismatic, they take care of themselves, they have some type of sense of honor to them. And those are the ones that all the women want, and they're all competing for them. But those types of men are in a great position to where they can now be selective. So I get a lot of hate online because people see me like dating multiple beautiful women. They're like, you're taking all the good women off the market for us. And I'm in that position because I worked on myself and women desire me. Women aren't going to desire the common man, right? So if you as a woman want to be able to even attract the super high value guy, we're looking for very specific things because we have access to all the beautiful women. Sex, I can get sex anywhere. I don't really care much about sex long term. So what else does the woman provide to the table? I want a woman who's going to reflect good on my own image, especially coming up in the public eye. I need a woman who's going to represent me well. So I don't want a woman who has just been with multiple men, who maybe had sugar daddies, who's done OnlyFans. I want a good, presentable woman who has values, who grew up in a strong family household, and can share my world perspective and allow me to lead. I think the key issue with a lot of modern day relationships is the man and the woman don't know who's leading. And there's kind of this idea that it's mutual 50-50. I think 50-50 relationships are BS. And the man needs to be the one leading the relationship. Even if the woman has a career and is intelligent, there needs to be one leader and one follower. Now, the woman can assist, give some educated opinions, maybe do things to help coach the man into making a more informed or better decision. But overall, the man needs to be the final decision maker and being the head of the household. And women need to be able to submit as well as just being good women that the high value men want.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah. I knew I had to ask that. So
that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers better than the whatever podcast.
Oh, okay. Cool.
A little bit more refined. I'll say that's good. So yeah, I just think that right now communication has really decayed in our society, and it's a little crazy right now because you're right. There isn't a clear understanding of who's leading, and there's a lot of men who are betas, unfortunately, that don't know what they're doing. So it's leading women astray.
And it's actually corrupting society in whole. And I think that's why we have a lot of Democrat voters now. Who are Democrat voters? Like broken family people. Like a lot of single women vote Democrat. A lot of beta males are voting Democrat. And, this is affecting the entire outcome of our society. I think if we could get back to the fundamentals of... I don't want the audience to take it the wrong way when I say reestablishing the patriarchy, because that sounds really intense, right? But I get why people say that, and I get the idea behind it because, yes, men do need to be in charge again. Women do need to be able to submit. There has to be some type of healthy system within each individual relationship so we can rebuild our population, because right now, what's happening? Our population's declining, and it's being replenished by India, China. So if we want to remain relevant in the decades to come, the centuries to come, then we need to really change things when it comes to relationships.
So vote strong male leadership 2024.
Yes, vote strong male leadership. See how it all intertwines?
Yes,
yeah.
That's how we bring America back.
Coming back full circle.
Exactly.
Yeah. If we could fix the family household, and we could get back to having good, wholesome, conservative, godly values, you don't even necessarily need to be a religious person to, support godly values. So what are godly values? Like loving your neighbor, taking care of your people. Like those are just some basic concepts for being a good human. So I think if we can do that and we can be honest with each other and open up communication, being able to talk about problems. I actually just did an episode about going to therapy and doing couples therapy and how that can really ruin relationships because you're getting some person's perspective. Their certifications don't matter. It's a person, an individual, their perspectives, and they're throwing these ideas that they have towards you when that's not necessarily the right solution.
It's true.
So I feel like couples being able to come together, discuss things out in the open in a healthy way can contribute to a more healthy and functional society.
I think you wrapped it up well. I think it's all interconnected, and essentially the future of this country relies upon getting back to tradition. And you've seen all these revivals of traditional masculine accounts. I actually had just joined a dating platform. It's called Unplugged Dating. So it's all about people who want to date for marriage. So that's launching December 3rd.
Oh, cool.
I am promoting it. So if someone's interested in joining, you can register via my link, which I will share. And Unplugged Dating. It's started by Masculine Revival is the account.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're part of the development process?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We'll definitely tag that in the description section below.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
This has been quite awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any last piece of advice you'd like to give the people watching?
Do your own research. Don't rely on what someone else is telling you as far as information goes. I know it's hard right now because they are suspending us, but try to follow accounts like me to get resources. There are things out there. Telegram is a great place to go. That's why they're trying to take down
that's a whole rabbit hole.
It's another whole conversation. But try Telegram. Truth Social is not as censored. Rumble has great
Vivek
podcasts.
Ramaswamy founded Rumble, right?
Did he?
Or he was like at least part of the development.
Okay, yeah, part of the development. But yeah, there are great resources. So, people are there for you. You just got to find the right ones.
Absolutely. I like it. Well, guys, that's it. This has been another Mastermind Monday episode. We'll be sure to post all of her tags in the description section below, along with we had the dating site. We had there's a few things.
And the foundation, Cash Without Foundation.
The foundation. Yeah. That'll be all posted in the comment section. But guys, if you like this episode, please hit like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and drop a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. I love your feedback, both negative and positive. Give it all to me. And with that being said, see you guys on the next episode.